The clear plastic packet was already visible at the edge of Detective Martin Keeler's vest before Elaine Porter ever pulled her Mercedes to the curb. Officer Aaron Doyle saw it when Keeler stepped out of the cruiser and tugged his rain shell down over the tactical vest. A folded corner of plastic. White crystals inside. Keeler pushed it deeper beneath the flap with 2 fingers. Aaron looked away. Ahead of them, a delivery van crossed the lane marker near Broad Street and corrected sharply through the rain. Keeler did nothing. Then a black Mercedes SUV moved through the next intersection. Steady speed. Signal working. Brake lights clean. Keeler leaned forward. Let's take that one. Aaron looked at the road again. She didn't cross anything. Keeler activated the light bar. Red and blue reflected across the wet pavement. Inside the Mercedes, Elaine Porter checked the rearview mirror. She signaled. Moved to the curb. Stopped beneath a street lamp. Both hands rested on the steering wheel before Keeler reached the driver's window. Elaine wore a charcoal blazer over a cream blouse. A leather work bag sat on the passenger floor. The Mercedes belonged to a federal investigative fleet, but nothing on the exterior identified it that way. The vehicle recorder was already running. It always ran. Keeler tapped the glass with his flashlight. Elaine lowered the window. License and registration. Before I reach, what is the reason for the stop? Lane movement. Elaine looked forward through the rain. My license is in my bag. Registration is in the glove compartment. I'll get the license first. Keeler watched every movement. She handed him the card. Elaine Porter. Pennsylvania. Valid. No wants. No suspension. Keeler ran the plate. Registration returned to a federal fleet contractor. Nothing prohibited the vehicle from being there. Aaron stood near the passenger side. Keeler came back from the cruiser. Who owns the car? My employer. What kind of work? Federal. Keeler looked through the open window toward the leather interior. You always this careful when police stop you? I prefer to be clear about my movements. Keeler gave Aaron a short look. Rehearsed. Aaron said nothing. The delivery van they had ignored earlier passed in the opposite direction. Keeler leaned slightly closer to the window. I'm getting an odor from the vehicle. Elaine's expression did not change. What odor? Marijuana. I haven't used marijuana. Step out. I do not consent to a search. You can tell your lawyer that later. Elaine opened the door slowly. She stepped into the rain. Keeler directed her toward the rear of the cruiser. Aaron remained beside her. From there, he could see Keeler enter the Mercedes alone. He watched Keeler open the center console. Lift the tray. Check beneath the front seat. Then Keeler's left hand moved toward his vest. Aaron saw the same flap lift. The same hand disappear beneath it. Keeler leaned deeper into the passenger side. For less than a second, Aaron lost sight of his fingers. Then Keeler straightened. He walked around the SUV and opened the passenger door. Doyle. Aaron approached. Keeler aimed his flashlight between the passenger seat and the console. The packet rested there. Clear plastic. White crystals. One corner folded inward. Aaron stopped. He had seen that fold before. Not inside the Mercedes. Before the stop, Keeler reached in and lifted the packet. Well? Elaine looked at it from beside the cruiser. Her face stayed still. Keeler walked toward her. Looks like enough for distribution. That did not come from my vehicle. Keeler smiled slightly. You sure? Yes. Aaron looked at the packet. Then, at Keeler's vest. Keeler removed his handcuffs. Turn around. Elaine complied. The first cuff closed. Then the second. No struggle. No raised voice. Keeler read the arrest warning while the rain ran from the edge of his cap. Aaron stood beside them. He could still say what he had seen. He did not. Keeler placed the narcotics inside a temporary evidence pouch. He did not seal it. Then he held the pouch toward Aaron. Carry this to intake. Aaron hesitated. Keeler extended it farther. Aaron took it. The plastic packet settled against the bottom of the pouch. For the first time that night, Aaron understood that silence was no longer the only thing being asked of him. At the station, someone would ask where the drugs had been found. And sooner or later, someone would ask him to put his name under the answer. The temporary evidence pouch reached Franklin South Precinct before Aaron Doyle had decided what he was going to do with it. Detective Martin Keeler walked through booking first. Elaine Porter followed with her hands cuffed behind her. Aaron came last. The pouch remained in his left hand. Captain Peter Donnelly looked up from the booking desk. What do we have? Keeler set Elaine's driver's license on the counter. Traffic stop. Marijuana odor. Vehicle search. Narcotics recovered near the passenger console. Donnelly looked at Elaine. Then at the pouch. How much? Enough to charge. Keeler reached for the field evidence forms. Elaine said nothing. Her blazer was still damp from the rain. Water had darkened the shoulders and one sleeve. Her posture had not changed since Broad Street. Keeler filled the first lines quickly. Vehicle. Passenger compartment. Clear crystalline substance. Recovered beside front passenger seat. Then he reached the certification section. Discovering officer. Martin Keeler. He signed. Below it, witnessing officer. Keeler pushed the clipboard toward Aaron. Sign. Aaron looked at the line. His hand did not move. Keeler tapped the paper once. You were there. Aaron picked up the pen. The form did not ask whether he had been there. It asked whether he had witnessed the recovery from the location described above. Aaron remembered the folded corner of plastic beneath Keeler's vest. He remembered the left hand disappearing inside the Mercedes. He set the pen down. I didn't see you find it. Keeler stared at him. You watched the search. I watched part of it. You saw the bag in the car. I saw it after you called me over. The booking room became quieter around them. Donnelly reached for the clipboard. He read the certification language, then looked at the pouch. Was this sealed roadside? Keeler answered immediately. We came straight here. That wasn't my question. Keeler's jaw tightened. It was controlled. Donnelly placed the form beside the terminal. No one books this into final evidence until origin is reviewed. Keeler gave a short laugh. Pete, come on. We have a trafficking arrest standing right here. Donnelly looked at Elaine. What is your statement regarding the narcotics? They were not in my vehicle before Detective Keeler entered it. Keeler shook his head. She's already building a defense. Elaine looked at Donnelly. Preserve the vehicle recording. That was the first request she made. Keeler turned toward her. What recording? Elaine did not answer him. Donnelly began the property inventory. Watch, phone, work bag, wallet. When he opened the wallet, he found the federal credential. He read the name, then the position. His eyes lifted. Elaine Porter, Regional Executive Authority within the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Donnelly did not drop the wallet. He did not call the room to attention. He picked up the liaison directory beside his terminal. Elaine spoke before he dialed. Verify it through the listed channel. Do not call anyone in my direct reporting chain to interfere with the arrest review. Keeler gave her a long look. You expect us to believe this? Elaine kept her eyes on Donnelly. My employment is not the issue. The verification took several minutes. It came back valid. Donnelly removed the cuffs. Not because Elaine was FBI. Because the drug charge had not cleared evidence origin review, and the remaining traffic allegation did not support continued custody. Across the room, Aaron still stood beside the unsigned form. Donnelly looked at him. You need to tell me exactly what you saw. Aaron swallowed. Keeler turned. Aaron. The warning was quiet. Aaron looked at his training officer. Then, at the pouch. When we got out of the cruiser, there was a clear packet in his vest. Keeler stepped forward. That's enough. Donnelly raised one hand. Aaron continued. I didn't know what was inside. But when he showed me the packet in the Mercedes, the corner was folded the same way. Keeler's face changed. Only slightly. Donnelly moved the pouch farther away from him. A federal liaison later notified Special Agent Tessa Lane because an FBI fleet vehicle had been searched and held in connection with disputed narcotics evidence. Tessa did not send a tactical team. She asked for one thing first. The vehicle data. The Mercedes carried a standard fleet integrity camera facing the front cabin. One recording. One angle. It showed Keeler leaning through the driver's side. His right hand searched the console. His left hand moved beneath his vest, then disappeared beside the passenger seat. Seconds later, the packet appeared. The video alone was not perfect. Aaron's statement made it harder to explain. The unsigned recovery form made it harder still. Tessa asked a second question. Had Keeler possessed narcotics from any earlier case that had never been fully entered into evidence? The answer came from a seizure connected to Calvin Holt. The field photograph showed more narcotics than the final evidence weight. The discrepancy had never been resolved. Neither had a separate amount of controlled federal cash that disappeared after Keeler handled the same arrest. By morning, prosecutor Megan Pierce had enough for a narrow preservation order covering Keeler's work phone, the Holt evidence discrepancy, and specific financial records tied to the existing corruption inquiry. One name appeared repeatedly in Keeler's communications. Judge Warren Albright. Aaron stood outside the interview room when Donnelly passed him the unsigned form again. This time it was not asking him to approve anything. It was being marked as evidence of refusal. Keeler had signed his version. Aaron had refused to lend it a second name. The case against Martin Keeler did not begin with Elaine Porter's title. It began with the packet. Where had it been before Keeler entered the Mercedes? Aaron Doyle answered first. He had seen part of the clear plastic above the inner edge of Keeler's vest before the traffic stop. He could not identify the substance from that distance. He could identify the folded corner. The fleet recording supplied the next piece. Keeler entered the Mercedes alone. His right hand searched the console. His left hand moved beneath his vest. Seconds later, the packet appeared beside the passenger seat. Then came the paperwork. Keeler had signed that he recovered the narcotics from Elaine's vehicle. Aaron had refused to certify it. The final physical link came from the Calvin Holt seizure. Investigators reconstructed that evidence from the field photograph, property sheet, and laboratory intake. The amount delivered to the evidence room was smaller than the amount photographed at the earlier scene. The missing portion used the same packaging pattern as the packet found in Elaine's Mercedes. Keeler now had to explain two locations, where the narcotics supposedly appeared inside Elaine's vehicle, and where they had been before he entered it. The evidence answered both. He could not. The traffic evidence removed another layer of his defense. A delivery van had crossed the lane marker shortly before Elaine passed the cruiser. Keeler ignored it. Elaine's recording showed no comparable movement. Her license was valid. The Mercedes was properly registered. She complied with every physical instruction. Yet she became the driver Keeler stopped, searched, and accused of carrying narcotics. The final investigative finding called the conduct what the evidence supported: selective enforcement followed by deliberate evidence fabrication. Elaine had not been arrested because Keeler discovered a felony. Keeler had created the evidence he needed to produce one. The corruption investigation continued on a separate track. Calvin Holt had been cooperating in an existing federal financial case when Keeler previously seized controlled cash from him. Part of that money never reached evidence. Warranted financial records traced portions through intermediaries connected to Judge Warren Albright. Communications showed Albright receiving information about seizures and cases involving the same network. Elaine's arrest did not prove that conspiracy. It exposed Keeler's method. Evidence could disappear when useful. Evidence could appear when useful. Martin Keeler was removed from duty. He was later convicted on evidence tampering, deprivation of rights, and corruption counts, supported by the physical provenance record, Aaron's testimony, and the financial evidence. His law enforcement certification was revoked. The court-ordered forfeiture of money proved to be proceeds of the corrupt arrangement. More importantly, the judgment permanently established that the narcotics attributed to Elaine had been introduced by Keeler and falsely represented as recovered evidence. The felony case created from that packet was dismissed with prejudice. The arrest was formally vacated. The fabricated narcotics entry was removed from ordinary criminal history use. Keeler had tried to manufacture a record that would follow Elaine. The record that survived opposed the finding against him. Judge Albright was suspended from judicial duties when the indictment was unsealed. The bribery and money laundering case proceeded through financial records, communications, and cooperating witnesses rather than anything Elaine ordered. Albright was later convicted and removed from judicial office through the state process. Aaron Doyle was not treated as a hero. The review found that he recognized serious irregularities on Broad Street and failed to intervene before Elaine was cuffed. He received an unpaid suspension and returned under probationary supervision. But the same order recorded the decision he eventually made. When Keeler asked him to certify a recovery he had not witnessed, Aaron refused. That refusal did not erase his silence on the roadside. It prevented the silence from becoming evidence. Captain Peter Donnelly faced a command review as well. Franklin South Precinct had allowed one officer to search a vehicle, claim discovery, handle contraband, and provide almost the entire account of its origin. Donnelly lost evidence supervision authority during the corrective period. The department adopted the field evidence origin rule. When narcotics were recovered during a vehicle search, their location had to be documented before removal whenever conditions allowed. The discovering officer could not be the sole source establishing origin. A witnessing officer could certify only what that officer personally observed. Unsealed narcotics from an earlier incident could not remain in an officer's possession after returning to patrol. Any disputed origin required independent evidence review before a felony charging packet could be completed. Elaine took no role in Keeler's discipline, Albright's prosecution, or Aaron's review. Tessa Lane and prosecutor Megan Pierce kept those decisions outside Elaine's reporting chain. Elaine gave one statement. The packet, the recording, the unsigned certification, and the financial records carried everything else. Months later, a police academy evidence class gathered around a mock vehicle console. An instructor placed a sealed training packet beside the passenger seat. There was no photograph of Elaine, no FBI title, no photograph of Keeler. Each cadet received a recovery form. Before anyone could move the packet, the instructor asked the first question required by the new procedure. Who actually observed it in that location? No one could answer by repeating what another officer claimed. No badge could supply the missing witness. And no signature could be borrowed from someone who had never seen the evidence there. This is a fictional story.